feel like I live in a world made of cardboard, always taking constant care not to break something, to break someone. Never allowing myself to lose control, even for a moment, or someone could die. But you can take it, can't you, big man? What we have here is a rare opportunity for me to cut loose and show you just how powerful I really am.
What's up, guys? Farooqi Bros here. Today is podcast number 18, and we're joined by a very special guest today. It's none other than George Newbern, the voice of Superman.
Hello.
Now, just introducing all of us again, I'm your editor-in-chief and host, as always, Sheraz Farooqi, and I'm joined by my brother Zayyan. What's up, guys? My cousin Omer.
Hey, everyone.
And my other cousin Samir.
What's up?
So, like I just said right now, we got literally the voice of Superman in the house.
In the house.
Yeah, it's even hearing him talk right now, it's kind of wild. I'm sure for our listeners, it's probably the same feeling.
That's funny.
And George, let's just kick it off right away. This is a question I ask everybody, and I want to give you that same platform to kind of just give everyone your story. And the question is, what is your origin story? You know, like, what's your origin story? What makes you George Newbern?
Let me see. Wow, a great question. What makes me myself? I'm just a human being living out in Los Angeles. I've got a wife and 3 kids, and been at this acting thing since a long time ago, since 1986. I've been out here, crushing the pavement, doing jobs as they come. And Superman and the Justice League was it's definitely the longest job I've ever had, and certainly one of my favorites for sure. So
that's awesome. And so I guess we can just jump straight into that. How did you land the role of Superman?
Well, it sounds kind of boring, but it was literally just an audition. I didn't know. I wasn't paying attention because they call you as I hear you have a meeting at 3:00 or 2:00, whatever. It's for an animated series. So, okay, great. So I go and I go. Oh, this is for Superman. That's cool. And then I just auditioned and I didn't even think anything about it. I just said, okay, yeah, we'll see what it was. And I didn't. Usually, you don't know if these things turn into something, small or big or whatever. And this turned out that I just replaced Tim Daly because Tim was working on the show Wings at the time and was unavailable, I guess, for scheduling and stuff. And so I took over for him, and so then the rest is, it just kind of kept going and going. And I didn't realize it was as big a deal as it was until we got into it. After the first year, I was like, oh my gosh, man, these fans are on fire for this thing. So
awesome.
Super cool.
So, were you into superheroes as a kid? And, did you have a favorite growing up?
You know what? I was into some comic books, but I was more into sort of Archies and, sort of the Tales from the Crypt and stuff like that. But I enjoyed the superheroes, but I was not sort of into Superman per se at the time, But what was cool is that as I got older, I really, really, really loved the movie Superman with Christopher Reeve. And then a couple of years after I saw that movie, when I came to LA, I got a movie, and most of my scenes were with Chris Reeve. And then, I asked him about Superman at the time, and he said he was, a little tired of the moniker, but he had come to embrace it. And I just think it's so ironic and fitting that I would do the voice of Superman for so many years after.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
What influences did you draw from when you were, when you got the role of Superman? Like,
I think influences. I wanted to make him as real as possible and not cartoony. And I'd heard, a lot of the other, like the Super Friends was the one that I hadn't even really listened to Tim Daly before, and I didn't want to because I didn't want to be conscious of whatever his voice was. But I'd heard the Super Friends version, I guess, sort of the late 70s, early 80s, I think is what it was. And I wanted to not do that because I thought it was too stylized. So, but Bruce Timm's animation and Andre Romano's direction pretty much sort of had us be real, but I felt like I wanted to make Superman strong, but clearly idealistic, and he was sort of the sort of moral center of these guys.
And it's funny you mention it right now. You said that you didn't purposely want to look at Tim Daly's work as Superman, but in some ways, like, there is some kind of synergy, especially when you watch the episodes of Superman the animated series and jump into Justice League, especially in like later episodes, like Darkseid episodes, where there's a lot of past synergy. There seems to be like a good kind of chemistry between both voices, and you feel like you're playing like an older version of that same Superman.
It could be. I think maybe you noticed that. I didn't notice that, but I could maybe see that.
So Bruce Timm never like talked to you about like the Superman series, nothing like that. No like prerequisite.
No. He just said, "Give me who you think this guy is," and I sort of originally they pitched my voice down because my voice was a little higher than I think that I wanted to do him. And it was funny, after a year they stopped doing it. My voice sort of settled down and became a sort of a lower, stronger register than I initially did.
Cool. And I guess you got one more follow-up question. You mentioned a little earlier, a few minutes ago, about how you actually worked with Christopher Reeve and you got to kind of so can you again go a little bit more about that? Like, how was that whole experience like? And you said you were a big fan of his movie as well. So how was that experience?
I was just a big fan of his in general. I thought he's a great actor, and he also did this movie called Somewhere in Time, which was he'd done it after Superman, and I just thought it was so good.
I agree. I watched the movie. It was really great.
Yeah, it was really, really good and kind of heartbreaking. And he was just a hilarious guy, and all my stuff was with Burt Reynolds and Christopher Reeve, and I just spent hours and hours and hours just hanging out with him. And I said, God, how has that been? Has it been like, has it just been tough to sort of, everyone thinks you're just Superman. And he said, ultimately, he said, it's good to be known for something, and I'll take it. So I get it, because I've got a couple of things that I've done in my career that people go, oh, you're the guy from the one thing. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm happy. Whatever. If it keeps me working and people are happy, that's good.
And
it's
just
fun.
For our listeners, if they want to watch that movie or whatever, what was the project you worked with?
It was called Switching Channels. It actually was not a very good movie, but it was a remake of His Girl Friday with Kathleen Turner, Burt Reynolds, and Chris. It wasn't that great, honestly, but it was, for me, it was like the second job I had in LA, and I was thrilled. I was like, whoa, I'm in a movie. This is incredible. So, but it was fun.
Nice. So I think let's get into like the next like kind of the meaty topic, and let's dive into your work with Justice League.
Sure.
What are some of your favorite episodes of the series? And we all kind of can share ours and kind of get into it. But looking back, like, what were some of your favorite moments recording, or what some episodes that stood out to you looking back now?
Okay, because I'm really bad at remembering the title of the episodes, and I know a lot of the fans are way better at it than I am. But I can sort of relay what I remember the episodes being about. I especially liked the episodes where I got to had a split personality. It was like the good Superman and the bad Superman, and the sort of the more evil Superman. I've forgotten the characters. He talked. He almost had to talk almost like he was a possessed robot. It was just so much fun to play. You guys would probably be able to look that episode up.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure it's A Better World, right? Where you.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. That's exactly it. I just had so much fun doing that.
Yeah, and that was a great episode, and we agree. And actually, if we can share with our audience what our favorite episodes were as well. I'll just start off. My favorite episode was, again, like, I'm a Superman fanboy, so the Superman episode really split out to me. And it was an episode called Twilight, where it was you.
Oh yeah, Twilight. That was fantastic. And I think that was a great episode.
And I think your voice work in that episode was just like amazing. I mean, I can give you like an idea. The four of us were actually very little. I think this was 2001, 2002 when this episode came out. And we were all like sitting at my grandma's house, and we actually had a sleepover just for that episode, like for Twilight to air.
Oh, crazy, man. I cannot believe that. That's because I know time is such a weird, elastic thing, but you tell me that you guys were little watching that in 2001. I'm like, 2001, I remember like I was watching the Twin Towers come down, and I was like, Jesus, this is so.
We were only like 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old each, and
unbelievable.
And we were big fans of obviously the Superman animated series, and we had enough of a mindset that we knew the last episode of Superman was that he had this standoff with Darkseid, and there's a lot of history there. And then your episode with Twilight, it was just straight picking up, and that one scene that we're gonna probably put a piece of in the beginning of this podcast.
Any minute now, Brainiac will explode. And guess what? You're going with him. No, Darkseid. To get off this rock, you'll have to go through me.
You really are a glutton for punishment. Time and again I've beaten you, humbled you. What makes you think today's outcome will be any different?
Because this time, I won't stop until you're just a greasy smear on my fist. Let's go.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
that'd
if you just warning Darkseid and telling him you're gonna make him a greasy smear on your fist, like it was like fanboy heaven.
Clancy Brown is a friend of mine, and we both graduated from the same university at Northwestern. Nice. He's a little older than me, but his Lex Luthor, I think, is just incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm always fascinated with voice actors because, you meet them and then you hear them and they don't necessarily go together. But Clancy Brown's head is so huge. He's like his skull is like an echo chamber, and everything sounds like he and Kevin Conroy. Their voices sound so amazing. Just basically, the structure of their head makes it so resonant.
That's a great point. I never thought about it that way, but yeah.
Yeah.
So Zayyan, what's your favorite episode? Share it with George. Yeah. So mine would be For the Man Who Has Everything. Yeah. I mean, once again, your performance that episode was just like spectacular. I mean, you really feel Superman's pain when his dreams are really taken away from him, and he has to let his son, not imaginative, but like his dream son die and just to come back to the regular world. I think your performance was so spectacular. You really felt his pain.
You. I think was Lois Lane in that episode? I believe she was.
Yes, she was playing the mixture of Lana and Lois. She played that character, the dream wife. Yeah,
because I remember Dana Delaney was there for that, and she's a great woman and a great love her, Lois Lane.
Yeah. Omer, what about you, man?
My favorite episode is actually Destroyer.
What? I can't remember which one that was.
That's when Superman gives a speech to Darkseid where he tells him like how he feels, like how it's like to be him in the world. Like everything feels like cardboard and.
Okay. Was it sort of a long? It was a long speech, wasn't it? I think it was.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember it too, and I'm just.
It was the last episode, right, of the series.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Was it really?
Yeah, that was the final episode. You had this final message to Darkseid.
Oh my gosh! Okay, yeah. Like I say, you guys are a little better about the titles of these things, but if I had them all in front of me, I'd be able to go,
yeah. Samir, finish it off. What about you, man?
I guess my favorite episode would be the Hereafter episode, where at the beginning it appeared that Superman died, then it turns out that he isn't actually dead.
Oh, okay, yeah. That one's escaping me, but I feel like I screamed and got electrocuted so many times I can't remember when I actually died or passed out. But I thought that was actually I have to say the hardest thing about voicing Superman is the getting electrocuted. He seemed constantly being like a laser ray or something, and I have to just stand there and go just like in this voice, and absolutely murders voice actors when they leave. You just can't. It's hard to sustain that.
It's hilarious, man. Yeah. So just to jump in back to your specific voice work between Justice League season 1 and 2, there was a change in Superman's character, and even your voice, you could tell that you were doing it a little more. You played him younger in season 2. In season 1, I know Superman was drawn a little older. He was more solemn. But in season 2, with the first episode being Twilight, you really jumped into it as more of a bridge between the animated series and Justice League. So did you purposely do your voice different, knowing that he's going to be a little younger, or what was your process?
No, I really didn't. You kind of have to, since you're not the actors are not writing these things, we don't necessarily know what the arc of the story is going to be. I just kind of get there and do sort of work with what we have that day. And if you tell me the whole season seemed younger, I didn't know that. But if anything, I thought my voice had settled a little bit. It was a little more mature and a little more serious, but maybe I had it inverted in my head.
Yeah, no, it was a little more serious.
But
And
it
was serious, yes. You actually mentioned earlier how you felt like your pitch of your voice was higher.
Yeah, they did. They pitched my voice down in the first season.
I think the difference was the pitch, because in season 2, the pitch wasn't the same. Like, it wasn't as low. Like, it was very low.
Okay, well, maybe that's what it was, because they stay with my natural voice, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely because
the case, yeah.
when you're talking to me right now, I'm hearing like Superman from the later seasons rather than the first season.
Yeah.
Samir, you got next question?
Yeah. So, what kind of impact has Superman had on you over the years?
I have to say, it has really been so fun, because especially going to these conventions that I've been doing for a couple of years, that to be able to connect with folks over a job that, sort of like you said, you guys were little kids when you saw this, and now you're still fans and you're adults. I'm shocked at how many young and older people are still huge fans of this thing. And it was such a touchstone for folks. They come home from school, they grab a bowl of cereal and sit down and watch the Justice League. Yeah. And it was our Justice League. That group of folks was, I think, pretty iconic for a lot of people. And so I would say the greatest thing about it has been the staying power of that series over the years. And it's been pretty, it's just gratifying, to have people love something that you did that much for so long. It's just fun. Yeah.
Let's talk about how kind of the series ended when like the end of the line came. The show officially ended in 2006.
Right.
With we said with the episode Destroyer. How was like the ending process like? Was there an anticipation that you're going to keep going, or was it a sudden ending? How did that all kind of wrap up that great run?
Well, I think that we got the word after, I guess it was 45 episodes, and I think we did 10 episodes. So it was like 4 or 5 years, but then it kept. We were really sad. I was like, why is this ending? It's a popular show, and I think that I didn't really notice quickly after that, because we keep doing video games and movies and games, video games, movies and stuff like that. It just kept going, and then the conventions, and so to me, it's just felt like it never stopped. To me, but so I was sad, but not ultimately. It's just sort of a gift that keeps on giving.
George, have you heard of the JL reunion, like this fan campaign going on Twitter?
Mm-hmm. I do. Yes, I do. Yeah, I'm hoping that someday one of these guys, the folks at Warner Brothers, will listen, man.
Yeah, I know. I mean, well, now that the new movie is coming out, Justice League versus the Fatal Five, which you're now reprising your role, you think this will be like a bridge to maybe a new animated series?
Maybe, man. It sure would be fun. It was Kevin and Susan and Bruce Timm and I would love to get everybody else together, man. That'd be ideal.
That would be awesome, yeah. And with DC's new streaming service, DC Universe, that would be like the perfect place for it.
They totally should do that, man. Just even do a 1 year limited one year limited series. I mean, I bet you Bruce Timm would do it. I bet he would do it.
We actually had a chance. We asked Bruce Timm in person back at Comic-Con. We asked him the same question about the Justice League reunion. He said himself that I think that if the opportunity came, he would definitely be open to it. It's just one of those things.
He is the guy, man. I tell you, that guy. I've never seen anybody that talented. Sometimes we would sit there. Somebody else would be recording, and I'd sit next to him in the booth, and I just look down at him while he's giving notes and stuff, and he's just doodling on the front of his script. And I was like, my God, I would frame that. He's like such a talented animator.
So let's move like past the series ending. Let's move forward in the timeline. So you did obviously Injustice, right? And what was kind of the difference in approach when you're doing a video game versus doing a series?
Video game is the last couple of video games I did. It's sort of immersive, and I had to wear like a hat. Like a helmet with a little camera that's filming the side of your face and your facial movements, so they can sort of plaster it onto the the CGI in the game.
Yeah,
I find that super weird. I didn't. it just felt super artificial to me. I had trouble with it, but I think it turned out okay. It's not my favorite way to work because it feels like someone's got their hands on my head. It's like, wah. So, but it's a different, it's like anything else. It's just an evolution of the art form in a different way. And after that, pretty soon it'll be something different, and you won't have to wear the helmets. You'll, do something else. But yeah, that's it. Style-wise, it's not that different. It's just awkward. It's awkward to get used to.
So how was it playing a more evil Superman in Injustice?
Fun. Super fun. Just great to sort of dig a little deeper and scrape the bottom of the barrel for sort of Superman's less attractive qualities. So that's fun.
Awesome. And there's actually another movie which is actually one of my favorites that you did. It was called Superman versus the Elite.
Yeah.
So how was it? How was it like doing that? That's more of like a direct comic adaptation. You did a lot of the iconic lines like "The Dream Save Us." How was that process like?
I think the animation was different on that one too.
Yeah.
Right. That was not Bruce Timm. That was someone else.
No, it wasn't.
I believe. Wait, you're talking about the movie?
Yeah,
the movie.
Yeah, it was the movie called Superman versus the Elite. Yeah.
I'm sorry, it was Head Injustice stuck in my head because that was the game. My son had my game. I don't necessarily remember it being that different than the Justice League, but I know the animation was different. And we also didn't record it all together, which is hard to do because when we did this series, we were all in the room together pretty much, and it's sort of we got to play off of each other. But I think in that one we weren't. As far as I can tell, we were not in the room together, so I think it might. To me, it felt a little less. It was a little disembodied, perhaps.
But to your credit, it really sounded just like you. You've completely. It still gave that Superman vibe, and when we still just to be on a personal level, when we read comics, you are the voice of Superman in our head. Like,
oh man, thank you.
It's the same as Kevin Conroy, Susan. Like. You guys are that voice. So if you're reading a Justice League comic, it's you guys, So it's a big part of our childhoods and even our adulthoods.
Awesome.
Omer, you got something?
Yeah. So you mentioned before in the start of the podcast your love for the Superman movie with Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, what's your take on Henry Cavill's performance as Superman in the DCEU, the live-action universe that they have been building?
I enjoyed it. I have no beef with it whatsoever. I thought it was cool. It's just a different gritty style. More, I thought, sort of, the technology's changed. I mean, geez, some of those action sequences are so surreal. You can't believe how violent and real they are. But no, I have no problem with his performance. I thought he did a great job. Loved it. And
I think we're actually all in the same boat. We're big fans of that interpretation of Superman. We think that it's a good 21st century kind of take on the character. And I think people have this thing in the fandom where it's like you can only one version of Superman. That's it. People are very defensive of it. And I think we're kind of examples of you can like everything. We can, even though Christopher Reeve is a little before our time, we watch the Blu-rays all the time, and we we watch the animated series and your work and Cavill and Snyder. So it's all happening at the same time, and you can enjoy all of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, although I guess Kevin Conroy is really no one's muscled in on him.
True,
you're right. Years, right?
But yeah, I think the fans who are listening to you say it yourself that you had no problems with the new version is pretty big.
Nah.
And I don't know if you know about the behind the scenes stuff, but there's a lot of rumors that WB might be going with the new Superman, or they're still kind of figuring out the next movie with Henry Cavill. What's your opinion on that? Do you want Henry to come back?
I'll be honest with you, I have no idea. They don't. I mean, if my feeling is Henry Cavill wants to do it, then I'll let the guy do it. I mean, I don't like changing it so much. I mean, I like sometimes the genre and the look and the feel changes. Great, get a different character, but if it's just trying to be different for different sake, then I start to get a little annoyed, honestly. But hey, if it's the same kind of setup, don't change it. Don't change him. I thought it was great.
And I think that kind of wraps up with kind of like again like jail reunion and people campaigning. We just saw Young Justice, that series get renewed almost pretty much exclusively on the fan campaign, and there was like a renew Young Justice hashtag, and it blew up, and then WB listened. So I think with the thing with
we got to get the Justice League. We got to do this, man.
And then,
get these fans riled up, man.
And we're hoping that this podcast and getting kind of like this your voice out there, kind of clamoring for it.
Great.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
That's the bad. That's Absolutely. Pretty big. Yeah. And Omer, you got one more question, right?
Sure. Yep.
Actually, on here, I do not.
That is. I do not. Said Sheraz. I do not.
You had. Do you have any plans for reprising your role? Right.
Do I have any plans for it?
Yeah. Do you have any plans for reprising your role? Like after Fatal 5? Like, have you have any projects in the work you can tease us on?
I just did about 4 episodes of Law and Order SVU I'll be on.
Anything for Superman?
In terms of animated stuff, I've been doing, the Sephiroth on Final Fantasy for 6 years. Going to a bunch of conventions this summer. I think it's in Florida and Raleigh and Stockton, California. So I'll put it up on my Facebook thing to let fans know. So I've got my actor fan page. So I'll put that up there so folks know. But other than that, man, I do a lot of audiobooks. I read a ton of voiceover stuff and on-camera stuff when it happens. I just wrapped up 7 years of Scandal on ABC, which was fun.
That's awesome.
And just like every other actor, man, I'm looking for the next gig. So.
Yeah, so I mean, let's just dive into some of your outside of Superman work. I know myself and Sheraz were huge Final Fantasy fans, and we love your work as Sephiroth.
Yep.
Yeah. We know the Final Fantasy VII is being remade on PlayStation. Have you been approached to reprise your role as Sephiroth yet? Or
you know what? Here's the thing. I don't know what I've done sometimes. I worked for Final Fantasy, and I think it was 7, and it was like 5 months ago. And I did like 5 days of work, but I don't know if it's what you're talking about because it sounds like there are different iterations of this thing, like a game or a movie or something.
Any chance it might be Kingdom Hearts? Kingdom Hearts 3 maybe?
Might be. I'm not good about looking at the title. When I'm going in, I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm going to do Sephiroth, and I go do it, and then the fans tell me what I just did. But I'm not sure if there's some really big, huge thing that's coming up for Final Fantasy in I think 2 years or a year, and I don't know. I have not been contacted about that, so I'm not sure if I'm doing it or not. So
we hope you do. You play Sephiroth really well. Yeah, it's
so fun.
Yeah, like I think you mentioned like the word fun every time we bring like a villainous role, villain Superman or Sephiroth. So do you like playing the bad guy more?
No, it's just something different, man. I spent my whole career playing good guys. It's just nice to do something a little different. And on Scandal, I played an assassin for 7 years. I mean, he was the worst guy ever. I've had just a really interesting career because I've gotten to play the nicest guys and the worst guys possible. So that's what it's lucky.
Yeah. So I have to ask this. It's one of my favorite shows, and I know you've only been on it for a couple episodes, but how was your experience with working on Friends?
It was a blast. It was a blast. I did 3 episodes of that. I went to school with Dave Schwimmer, and I were friends, and Matt Perry's an old friend, and it was just a blast, man. I would have stayed on that show they kept on going. It's just one of those shows that are so well written that you almost can't. It's almost actor proof. You can't really screw it up unless you're really terrible. The writing is so funny, so everybody just nailed it.
And just to continue on and just go kind of jump back into Superman as we kind of go on the last leg of this, but
yeah,
can you speak on like what Superman kind of means to society from your point of view? Like maybe not to you specifically, but like from your point of view, like as you've voiced the role and seen how kids have reacted, like how, in your opinion, what does Superman mean to kind of like American pop culture, even universal world pop culture?
I think I don't know if it's probably pretty obvious to everybody, but Superman is sort of the iconic sort of moral barometer, and when there's a lot of relative morality in the world. He sort of puts his foot down and says, "This is right, this is wrong," and he fights for the underdog and fights for the people who can't care for themselves. I just think it's in many ways it's a sort of a messiah. He's sort of like a messiah slash mythological person that everyone can relate to, and I think he's sort of the moral center. He's like fully superhero, fully man, almost like a Jesus figure, in many ways.
Cool. And just going back, like you mentioned how your favorite episode and what some of your favorite moments were, but behind the scenes, what were your favorite moments? Like working with the cast? Any one moment, like this moment in the studio or this day was calls back to you? Like any big moments from that time?
Well, there weren't necessarily, I can't really, well, I do remember one moment that really freaked me out that made me laugh because Mark Hamill came in to do the Joker, and I'd never met Mark Hamill. I was a big Star Wars fan, and he came in, and I was like, he looks, very different, older, and that's all great. But his voice in real life is not. He's just sort of like this guy, this normal. He sounds like he was in the theater department at school, and then he did the Joker. First of all, he didn't sound at all like his character in Star Wars. And then when he did the Joker, I was like, what is going on here? This guy is amazing. He is super talented. He's really really talented voice actor, and his Joker just cracked me up. I just sat and stared at him the whole time. That was a neat moment. And I think the other moments, we had such great people who came in to guest star, Jonathan Rhys Davies and Powers Booth and Dana Delaney, Thomas Sizemore. A lot of folks came in there, and it just sort of screwing around between takes is it's always my favorite part, when you're not. Sometimes when you're just screwing around and people are doing voices for each other and laughing and telling off-color jokes in between, it's just so fun. It's just ridiculously fun.
Do you ever catch the series now, or show it to your kids, or?
You know what? My youngest, when I first started doing the show, this tells you how long we've been doing it. My son is 16, and when it came out, my son was whatever that was. It was like a baby practically, and there was this game that came out as Superman. It was a Superman cape and like a chest plate where I recorded the voice for it, and he got it for my son as soon as he was old enough to wear it. He'd run around the house and you push the button and down, it was like up and away, Superman, and my son was running around the house pushing that button, and that was like, I get to be Superman and his dad. That was pretty dang hilarious.
And how do they feel about that? Do they ever do they have any reaction to knowing like you were Superman for so long, or when they see you on screen, do they have a particular reaction?
It's just it's for Superman especially. They just look at me and giggle because I'm just anything but Superman at home, So that's what's.
And you mentioned like you're gonna go to conventions. Any plans come to New York Comic Con?
We did New York Comic Con. We did a Justice League reunion. I think it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. Yeah.
It was such a blast, man. We should do one of those a year somewhere. I love the New York Comic Con. That's a great one.
Oh, definitely. If you end up coming to New York, we definitely would love. Yeah, we'd love to meet you also there.
Pardon?
But we'd love to meet you there also if you end up coming.
Let's do it. All they have to do is ask me. I'm ready to go. So.
Sounds great.
Well, I mean, with Justice League versus the Fatal 5, I'm assuming one of these years you get the call. Come down.
Yeah. Well, they're doing. We're doing something at the what's the one in not San Diego, but the one in Anaheim. It's
Ace. I think of Ace.
It's a big one. It's in March in Anaheim. Anyway, we're doing a big release of the Fatal 5. We're doing a big premiere thing there.
Yeah, I think it's WonderCon, right?
Yeah, WonderCon. That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
Well, it's awesome. Like we said this before, but you were the definitive voice of Superman. Like it was a combination of you and Tim Daly together. Like as a toddler, we're listening to Tim Daly
keep doing it.
Yeah, so just hearing you now, like it's a big thing. Like nostalgia is a big thing where fans love it, and hearing the voice of kind of like your childhood come back is what.
Isn't that hilarious? It's so hilarious, and I forget. You go into the booth and you forget that it lives on and it lives on and lives on. It's like that movie Father of the Bride that I did. I still get people coming to the airport to me and go, "So my daughter just got married. We saw that movie last night." And I was like, "Oh, well.
That's awesome."
So, and it's hilarious.
And again, like if you if you had to pick any other character to play, would you ever give up Superman, or is that character completely ingrained in you now?
Well, it's part of me. I mean, I can only say it's been a part of me for 15, 16 years, and I can't imagine it not being a part of me for forever.
Well,
So.
let's say if back in the day you couldn't be the role of Superman, what character would you be?
You know what? I'd like to either be Flash. I think it's hilarious, and I like Batman. I'd do Batman.
Awesome.
I think that would be hilarious.
And that's a jumping off point. Kevin Conroy mentioned sometimes that the difference between voicing Bruce and Batman is that Bruce is the mask and Batman is the actual hero.
Reality.
So for you, when you're voicing Superman, tell us like the difference between Clark and Superman or Kal-El. Like if you had it's almost like three different people you're playing at once. So how does that work? Like in your head, like how do you decide between the voices?
Well, I mean, you mean if I were to do, what do you mean? Like
meaning like how's your process? Like how do you differentiate Clark and Superman? Or who is the mask and who is the actual person?
Well, I mean Clark is the sort of Boy Scout version of Superman, and Superman is really who he is. I mean, is the unmasked version of Clark Kent. He's Clark Kent is the bumbling, teenager basically version of the guy who has to get the work done. So I think in terms of process, you're the sort of the more innocent, adolescent, idealistic version of Superman.
And in your opinion, what was like your definitive Superman in your own head? Like, was it the movies? Was it like the animated movies of Superman vs. the Elite, or was it the animated series? And the difference between Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, what's kind of like your favorite time playing Superman? If you had to pick
I would say the first and second years to me were my favorite, I think, and especially with that opening credit sequence, when they're walking forward and that music is so stirring, and they're walking slow motion toward the camera. I just think it's so killer, And in terms of what do you mean? In terms of live action movies,
actually, it could be a two-part question. But yeah, first I was saying, within your own work, do you find one part of your Superman work to be definitive among the crowd?
I would say the first couple of years of the show of the Justice League series, Justice League Unlimited, I guess, started the second year, or was it the third year?
I think Justice Unlimited was the third year. I think third year.
So I would say the first 2 years, I feel like it was a little more true to the spirit of Justice League, and what else? And I love Christopher Reeve's live action version. To me is the touchstone.
Yeah, I think it's still like the thing most people go by. I think Marvel. I think Kevin Feige, who's like the head of Marvel, said that before every single Marvel movie, they show the director Superman 78 to everyone.
They should, and they should.
So it's still like a huge part. They just had their 40th anniversary this year. Last year, I mean, yeah. Whoa. 2018 was the 40th anniversary.
Holy crap!
They were doing screenings, and that was fun to see. It was like the first time. It was the first time I saw it in theaters myself. Like it's the first time we saw it when they did the 40th anniversary re-release. That was the first time I got to see it.
It's pretty great. It's pretty great, and the technology it works. It's a little cheesy in some spots, but it works generally. The flying and all the rest. So I think.
Just before we just like one more, actually, some questions about Justice League Unlimited we might have, but if you remember the exact episodes, but there is the Cadmus arc of Justice League Unlimited had Superman a little more angrier, a little more like he became a little more Batmanish in a sense, and in some way jokes about the show as well. So was there like a process difference? I know you don't know much about, you don't remember the arcs themselves, but
I don't. I need a flow chart. Before I do these podcasts, because I feel like I'm letting folks down because I should know more specific.
No, it's probably fine. I think after so many years, it makes sense. But you were playing an angrier Superman, like especially like the Shazam episode where Shazam himself was much more of a the innocent Boy Scout Superman, and then in contrast to Superman looks like the brooding, more cynical superhero after all these years.
I'll be honest with you. I think that really I go where I'm directed on that stuff, because the director and Bruce Timm, or who the producer and director usually have an idea of what the temperature of a certain scene should be, and I can give it sort of my take on it. But usually they say, Superman's not, he's not so disturbed by this. Keep him, put a lid on it. Then sometimes you can really let Superman go here because this is, they've really crossed the line and you can just let it fly. So I usually wait to be told that because it's generally he doesn't lose his mind, and he's usually got stuff under control.
Do you guys when you're voice acting, do you see the animation already done or storyboards? Do you have something to go on?
No, we don't. We get the script, and then when you go back for corrections, a lot of times, they have to go back and do pickups, which is they'll animate. The animators, they animate to your voice. You give them the voice, then they go do the animation in Korea, or I don't know where they end up doing it. But then when it comes back to the editor in America, there's always things they're missing, or sometimes characters are too close to each other, and they're like, you're yelling. We need you to do that line softer. But then when we get that correction back, we do see it on a TV. So we match the mouth. Then we have to actually look at the what's the word, the mouth flap or whatever, to make sure that it matches.
Ah, that's interesting.
So you change the performance based on how they animated the original voice performance. Then you have to modify based on the animation.
Samir, you got
in Final Fantasy, I did all the American voices for the Japanese guy, and we had to match. Yeah. That was a crack up, man, because you could only put the mouth flap in for I would hear the Japanese, and of course I don't know any Japanese, but it was and I'd have to put in, Cloud, you must go to the bathroom. I would have to fit those words into the cadence of the Japanese, and it didn't make any sense, but
yeah,
it's hilarious.
That's hilarious, yeah.
Samir, what you got?
Yeah, so do you think you'd ever, make a cameo in a future live action superhero?
I would love that. That would be a dream. I would love it. It'd be fantastic. Get the word out.
Yeah. We might put it in.
For all of us to see.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We mentioned before about the Justice League reunion and how there's a campaign going on for.
My Twitter feed. I get more about that on my Twitter feed than anything else. 20-1. It's that's it.
Yeah, a lot of people want you guys back.
I just can't believe. I mean, it's a fever pitch, man. Every day there's new stuff. Funny.
Yeah, it's crazy the power of social media today.
I know it. I mean, honestly, of all the characters I've done, I think Superman is. I think I probably have more fans around the world for an animated voice I did for Superman than anything else I've ever done. It's amazing to me. It's amazing.
But again, I'll wrap it up and just say that we all want the jail reunion and we all want Justice League to come back, and the power of hashtags we see it with Young Justice, we see it with Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League the movie, and there's a lot of different stuff going on with that. So we just want the fans. The fans have a power on this stuff, and I think the more they ask for it, the studios will listen.
The fans, man. The fans run this. They run it.
And I think I'm representing most of our audience who are 90s kids. You are Superman in our heads. So thank you so much for the work you've done and for the impact you've had on our childhoods, all four of us.
And the work you continue to do.
And continue. So I think we can't wait to hear you in Justice League versus the Fatal Five.
Thank you guys. I appreciate your podcast.
All right, I'll just do a wrap up now. So from myself, from Zayyan, from Omer, and from Samir, and from Superman himself, George Newbern, this is the Farooqi Bros. We'll see you next time. Peace out.
Good. Dreams save us. Dreams lift us up and transform us into something better. And on my soul, I swear that until my dream of a world where dignity, honor, and justice are the reality we all share, I'll never stop fighting. Ever.